Nehanshu, hi, good to have you with us. How have you been?
Hi, Ashu. I'm good. Good to
It's
be
a
here.
pleasure. I'm excited about this session, right? I think, COVID has been a very unreal time. I think many businesses got impacted, right? But I think during that time, the entire narrative around Make in Bharat, Make in India, right? Which, which kind of, took a very different kind of a momentum, right? And I think every single entrepreneur in the country was geared to sort of come in and participate, right? I think
Right.
you've really sort of been in the thick of things, right? Around the same time. So I'm particularly excited to sort of, have that discussion,
Sure.
as we talk about Kagas, right? Where you are, where you're building a product which is essentially done for Bharat, right? And, with me is Vivek, who's, part of the founding team at Asia Tech Journal, who's going to be part of this conversation, and will continue to ask you many millennial questions, right, on the user side of things. So looking forward to this conversation, Syanshu.
Indeed.
As we dive into this, it'd be lovely if you could take us through your, quick round of introduction would be helpful,
Sure.
and from there we start discussing about the Kagas journey.
Sure. Sounds good. A quick background about me. I'm an engineer from my education. Did my BTech from IIT Bombay back in 2007. Did consulting for a few years. Did my postgrad from ISB Hyderabad in 2011-12 period. Spent a few years in Indonesia after that. Worked in sector there. Came back to India in 2015 to start my previous company called TapMe, which was a home services business.
Right.
Did that for 4 years. And then Gaurav, I and Taman started this company in 2019. First product we had was Sorted AI. Then things evolved, and now we're completely focused on building Kagas as document super app for the Bharat users.
Very interesting. Snehachu, like I said right at the outset, right? I think COVID has been a very unreal time, right? And I think it was particularly interesting for you guys around the entire narrative that got built around, Make in India, right, and for Bharat. And I think that just took a very different kind of momentum, right? Tell us a little more about this, right? I mean, Kagas was literally they were like a bunch of global competitors, who were in the ecosystem, right? And I think just and that came from China, right? And as that entire bit came to a standstill, right? I think Kagas just sort of took everybody by surprise, right? Tell us a little more about that phase.
So Ashu, a little bit background before
Sure.
that. So when we started the company, the idea at that time was to build Sorted AI, which was our first product.
Sure.
And as the name says, it was a productivity app built to get you sorted automatically, leveraging AI. So one of the core features there was that you upload any kinds of your documents to Sorted, and it will automatically identify what this document is, whether it's an ID card or an insurance document or a vehicle document or a medical document, etc., and categorize it for you automatically. Also pick up important information out of those documents to help you. So if there's an insurance document, it will automatically set up a reminder for the renewal date. It will pick up the policy number for quick access, and similarly for all kinds of documents. So that was what we started building in 2019. Did that for a few months, and one of the things that we were facing challenge there was everyone was excited about the idea when we spoke to them about that here's a product that we are building, and they'll sign up, but not many people were uploading as many documents as we would have liked them to. And digging that deeper, amongst other things, one of the things that we found was people have to scan documents somewhere else and then upload to Sorted AI. And because all the documents that they're getting typically are in physical format.
Right.
So that's where we thought, why not let's build a scanner ourselves, which will basically people use it for scanning the documents to share with someone or just to keep it on their phone. And the AI engine will kick in and start doing the magic for them. With that intent, we had actually launched Kagas in June of 2020. So by the time COVID has already hit, we were in that phase of figuring out what's the direction for Sorted AI, because we were not seeing enough traction on that front. And we're trying to experiment around what could be the direction that we take. And this was something that came naturally. And we thought, let's build a scanner ourselves. At that time, the whole Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign had already picked up. And Honorable Prime Minister also had talked about a lot about that. So we thought, we are building an Indian scanner. We don't see a very good Indian scanner available. Everyone's using either a Chinese product or an American product. Let's build an Indian scanner and let's call it Kagas, because they're talking about scanning papers. So we called it Kagas. And it so happened that 15 days later, we launched around 14th of June. And 15 days later, 29th of June, the Chinese apps got banned. Along with that, you had Cam Scanner also getting banned. And that meant people were immediately looking for an Indian alternative for scanning. And Kagas being obviously Indian with a name like that, we started getting a lot of traction coming our way. And within a day, we had like in 24 hours, we had 100,000 downloads from practically zero. I mean, we just launched the product 15 days back, and we're still in the early phases of it. So yeah, that put us in a different trajectory. Also, that put us in hands of different kinds of users. Earlier, we were focused on a lot more users who are like us, who are looking for productivity apps and AI-powered tools, etc. To a set of users who are actually looking for a lot simpler tools, because they don't have that also. For us, we had taken a lot of these tools for granted, whether it is around PDFs or scanning documents or all those tools. But what we realized was there's a whole audience which has come to the internet and come to the digital life for the first time in the last 3-4 years, thanks to internet becoming cheap and smartphones becoming cheap. They are now on the internet and looking for tools, and they have never worked on a desktop or a laptop. So all those tools that are available, which are adapted from desktop to a mobile environment, are not something that is built for them. Something that they don't understand. A lot of smaller things that we learned with that was, for example, a Bharat user is not someone who is an email user. They are a phone number and WhatsApp user. For them, communication is also on WhatsApp, document sharing is also on WhatsApp, business is also on WhatsApp. While for us, it was always email first. So with that kind of more insights around the Bharat user, we then started focusing on building tools for this audience who do not have the right things for them and are looking for everything that can be done on a smartphone because they don't have a laptop.
Interesting. I'd have Vivek to answer a question, right? I think being a millennial, right? I think he is essentially the generation that you've highlighted, right? And I would want him to pick up a question around usability, features, right? And your mindset to be catering to the younger audience, right? Vivek.
Yeah, thank you for this. Just one thing, Snehansu, as we dig deep, is how you actually gave us the feature that we require. Being very honest, being of the millennial generation, what are the main features? Because we do come from a stage where we already have used the counterparts, the cam scanners of the world or different apps of the world.
Right. So, how we think about that, Vivek, is to start with, scanner was something that came for a different reason. And then people started adopting it. And a lot of our users are actually millennials, actually students who are using it for scanning their assignments or exam papers. Again, COVID scenario, everyone's doing online education and they have to submit stuff online by scanning. So there's a significant chunk of our users that's from that audience. And they are also the people who tell us what more to be done. There's a lot of the older generation users. For them, all of this is very, very new, and they're not that aware of what all can be done, or maybe I would say not that so the millennial audience will ask for everything that they can possibly get, and that's where we get a lot of feature requests, whether it is through our reviews that we get on Play Store, or we have a WhatsApp feature within Kagas app where people can reach out to us to share a feedback or to request for a new feature or any other challenge that they're facing, and they'll then reach out to us on those channels, tell us what they need more, and then of course we keep a track of what kind of feature requests are coming in, and accordingly we prioritize on that. Also, another important thing that the importance of the millennial users for us, the students for us, is, I mean, there cannot be any better tester of any tech product than a millennial. They know how to break any tool in all possible ways that it can happen. So they are the ones that tell us that here is your app breaking, and they are also good enough to go on and share that feedback with us. They'll not just say your app is broken and uninstall. They'll come and tell us that here is what I found, your app is breaking, please fix it, and then we go on and fix those things. So that's how millennials have been an important part of how we've been building Kagas.
Interesting. And I think crowdsourcing for a solution is always a better way to do it than I think any other way. Pinanju, what are the current numbers like, right? Where do you stand currently? I mean, we are, 1 year from when COVID had hit, a little over a year when COVID had hit, right? And, clearly the markets are there's a huge pent up demand. Markets are waiting for, to get back to normal, right? What are the current numbers like, right? And also what I want to understand is, how large is the landscape, right? I mean, India is still a market which exists in many, many layers, right? We're still building our depth, right? We still don't know where the bottom really is. I mean, we know very larger level consumption trends, right? But I think those are very early phases, right? So what are the numbers like, right? And what's the size of, I mean, how do you look at how do you dissect the market, right? How large do you think the market?
Sure. So right now, in terms of our numbers, we have about 6.3, 6.4 million total downloads in the last 1 year. This is only on Android. We have an audience on iOS as well, but larger audience is on Android. I mean, in India, anyway, 95, 96% of users are Android users only. So that's where our total download numbers are. And we have a regular active user base of about 2 million plus users using our app every month on an ongoing basis. In terms of the larger market, so the way we are looking at the Bharat audience, there's 500 million people who have come to internet in the last 4-5 years. And this is other than the 100 million that was there, which we were part of probably.
Right.
So there's this 500 million audience that is looking for tools for everything. Whether it is for entertainment, whether it's for business, whether it's for utility or productivity. And there's an opportunity to build tools for them, which are specifically designed for them, specifically designed for mobile only environment, designed for Indian languages. For example, Kaga is available in 11 Indian languages today. So that's the audience that, larger target audience that we are looking at. And to put a context to it also, Cam Scanner, before getting banned, as per the public that we could find, they had 100 million users in India of Cam Scanner. So that is like the audience that is immediately available for us to go after and go deeper and deeper into it. And then, of course, the new 500 million that have come, who are first time figuring out that, okay, scanning is something that you can do with a phone as well. And that level of audience. So there's a lot of, available demand that is still not tapped. Probably in terms of a journey also, a user, when they get to digital life for the first time, it's more focused around either communication or entertainment.
Right.
That's the phase in which we've seen the Indian, Bharat users being in the last 4 or 5 years, whether they're using WhatsApp or they're using ShareChat or Moj or all those, apps for entertainment or communication. And now they're moving into looking for what else can the smartphone do for me. And that's how the target market is growing for our kind of products.
Interesting. Snehanchu, I have a question, right, which is particularly around Bharat, right? And of course, I'll have possibly a series of questions, right, in an interaction, because I think Bharat is something which is, I think it's going to be a very large hunting ground for, I think, everybody who's operating in the Indian ecosystem, right? And because that's the new user base which is coming into, the contribution sides of things, right? When you talk of a user from Bharat, right, which is necessarily just communicating and consuming entertainment content, right, which is just about a few clicks, right? How is the onboarding, right, or how complex is the onboarding, for say a tool like Kagas, right? Is it easy? Is this, say, one interaction and they get it? Or it requires a couple of iterations? There is a certain handholding that is required by your, at a product level that you do. How is that relationship, and say trust getting built, right? That, I'm not doing anything wrong, because inhibition is something which is very, very large when you talk of, say, a tier 3, tier 4 and downwards, right? India. How is that relationship being built? I mean, how are you handholding them into an environment like Kagas?
Right. So for us, Ashu, the focus has been to make it very, very simple.
Sure.
Any complexity and you will have a huge drop off. And we are in a pure technology business. We do not want to, get into a space where we have to go on and get people to download the app and then tell them how to use it.
Sure.
We want to make it very, very simple that they should be able to figure out what this app is, largely on their own. Of course, there are in between, nudges and pushes that we build in the product itself to tell them what direction to take. But the idea is to build it so simple that when they land on the Kagaz home screen, they are not required to sign in.
Sure.
They are not told anything. They just get inside. There's a
Right.
big green button which says scan.
Right.
You click on it, a camera opens. Now every one of them knows how to click a picture.
Right.
That's the another feature of this audience, that they are not someone who's a text user. They are more of image and video and emojis kind of a user.
Right.
So they understand all of that a lot better than you writing something and then they're reading and then understanding what needs to be done. So
Right.
for them, there's a big button which says scan. Click on it. Even if you don't read it, you are going to definitely click on it. You click on it, camera opens. They know that camera hai to click karna hai. They just go on and click pictures, and it does a lot of these things automatically for them. That the edges of the document get identified for them. Then they also understand that how to adjust it. Again, camera is something that this audience understands very, very well.
Right.
They know how to crop things, and they know how to do all of that, and filters and all of that. Something that is now very well versed audience this is for all those things. So for us, that's where thanks to TikTok and all the people who have introduced the whole camera to this audience, that they understand camera very well, and that's our focus.
Right.
That don't bring in something which is not organic part of the current process.
Right.
The current process is they know how to click a picture. Right. Before the scanning before using scanner, they would click a picture and send it on WhatsApp. So they know the document hai, so I'll have to click picture, crop it from sides, and then send it on WhatsApp. We do that from Kagaz, but we make it a lot better for them. That once you've clicked, you can adjust borders, you can enhance the picture quality, and then share it in different formats, whether it's a PDF or a JPG on WhatsApp or whichever medium you're using. So that part is very, very consciously kept very, very simple. And there are not many instructions also. They just come in and start scanning. Nothing else to worry about. As we go deeper into more features that we are working on, there are some things that need handholding also.
Right.
For example, we recently introduced cloud storage, that you can now back up your documents on cloud.
Right.
This is something that we are seeing, that this is something that intuitively they understand that an app can store their information, whether it's a Facebook or a share chat, or they know that if I change my phone and log in into another phone, into a Facebook or a share chat, I'll have all my pictures there showing up there as well.
Right.
So that's intuitively something that they understand. But the idea of cloud and how do you back up things is something that is not so intuitive for a lot of this target segment. So that's where a little bit of handholding in terms of, and that's also all focused on videos. You can't really do a lot of things using text in the app. We tried that, and the results are much better when we introduce a video in the app, where in that section there's a video how to use this. And you click on it, it tells you what cloud is and what are the benefits of it, and this is how you use it. So that's how we are looking to get some of the more complex.
Snehanshu, given that you're essentially an India first application, right? And I think you clearly have a very deep and a core focus on Bharat, right? And that's the new user, right? As I say, Bharat, right? And we are a fairly complex economy in the sense that we operate at many levels, many layers, right? There's a lot of regionality. There are a lot of consumption preferences, right? What is right for say certain part of India might not be right for the other part of the country, right? And it just makes it a very complicated environment, right? How do you prioritize at a product level in such a case, right? That's one, right? Second, how important is it to have a one-act angle to this, right? Does that brings in trust faster? Does that makes, like I earlier asked, right? Does that takes care of the inhibition that people could potentially have, right? What have your experiences been around that?
So as you rightly pointed out, Ashu, there's a lot of layers to the users that we have. And within our user base, as we said, there are millennials who are students who are very comfortable with technology. And we also have a 65-year-old businessman who is just trying to manage things and trying to figure this out. So the requirement of, vernacular, or, how do we make it for this different audience, it becomes different for different users. What we've tried to do is we have tried to keep it so simple that most of these people, the 65-year-old person can also understand what needs to be done. While of course, the millennial will figure out a lot of these things on his own. Along with that, vernacular has played a good amount of role here. And as we add more complexity to the product, we want to still keep it very simple. It's complex in terms of it's more feature packed now, but the interface has to still be very simple.
Sure.
We have to understand that they're coming in here for scanning. So that has to be very, very simple. First thing that they should do, come in here and scan a document. Other things are things that we slowly nudge them towards and move them towards that. That's where language starts playing a role. That now, if I have to explain something, if it's in their own language, it becomes easier for them to grasp it and then use it. And while scanning is a very simple process, just 3 clicks and you're done. So that's something that people are able to manage even without having their own language available there. But language is starting to play a lot more role for us now, and building for Bharat is becoming a lot more relevant there. But other way that we've been looking at for this audience, language is one part of it.
Sure.
And it's understandable. That's the more talked about part, because that's easier to grasp that, okay, language is something that will definitely add more value for them.
Sure.
But there are a lot of other nuances around this audience that are important for us to learn to develop for things for them. So for example, I'll give you an example that I don't know if you've heard of that or not, but we get everyday users rating Kagaz. There are a few users that will rate Kagaz 1 star, but write a review, great app, excellent app, good app.
Right.
Because they are so new to all of this that they don't understand the concept of 5 star and 1 star.
Right.
For them, that's also something that they don't know.
Right.
So it's just not just about language. It's about knowing a lot of these things also, which we have to then tell them that if you like it, please rate it 5 star.
Sure.
And that's the learning that they go through also.
Very interesting.
So language is definitely an important part, but there are a lot of nuances around UX that these things become a lot more relevant building for Bharat.
Interesting.
Just taking on from the conversation, one thing, Snehanshu, is where are we taking the whole Kagaz app basically? There is the Bharat angle, there is the millennial angle. What's more?
So right now the focus for us is the Bharat angle, and we are looking at building Kagaz as a document super app for the Bharat audience. So when I say document super app, the journey for someone getting to digital documents and all starts with scanning, where they convert their physical documents to digital. And then it's about consumption of documents initially, which is where we introduce a PDF reader where they can now open PDFs within Kagaz. From there, we then move to document consumption was addressed, and we moved to document organizing and document storage, which is where we introduced a file manager piece within Kagaz, where you can now organize your documents within folders in Kagaz and organize them the way you'd want. Also introduce a cloud storage so that you can now back up these documents, so that something happens to your phone or you decide to change your phone, which is also very often in case of phones, that you don't lose your important documents. So first we focus on consumption and storage. Next set that we focused on was document editing, where PDF tools came in, where you can now compress a document. So if, let's say, a small businessman wants to upload a document to a bank website or a government website, there's a constraint that you can upload only a 1 MB file. Now he has got a 4 MB file, he wants to compress it to upload it. He's looking for tools for that as well. So Kagaz has tools for that within the app, where they can compress a PDF or do a bunch of other activities on PDFs to upload and do all of that. So that was the document editing part. There's a lot more in store for document editing. So for smaller businesses, they could put a digital signature to a document or edit a PDF, annotate a PDF. Again, millennials want annotation for PDFs to be able to highlight their notes or things like that. So that is the next set of tools on PDF. The other thing that we've addressed consumption, storage, and editing to some extent. The next part is creation of documents. This is where we see a lot of our future work going to be, that a lot of these users are looking to now create documents also. And when I say documents, it's not just making a letter or things like that. We're thinking of everything, whether it's a business card for a small business, or whether it's a social media post for someone who's trying to sell stuff online, or for a creator who's creating videos and wants to do a thumbnail for YouTube. This is all document creation for us. And how we are thinking of it is simplifying it so much for this user that they have templates for everything. They just pick up a template, edit some text, and get the design quickly done for them. They don't have to think about creating something new. There are tools that are available for creating stuff, but that's too complicated for this audience, is what we've learned. And as we've built Kaagaz as a very easy app, even for scanning, we're looking to do document creation as the next bit that we're focused on. And there's another part that we will definitely be working on sometime in near future, is integrating with the whole India stack. Now, Government of India is offering all these official documents in DigiLocker straight away in digital format, which are equivalent to original. So we want to also bring that with the integration with DigiLocker to Kaagaz, so that the utility of Kaagaz is a lot more now. All your scanned documents are also here. All your official documents are also here, and you're creating new documents, that's also here. So that way we become a document super app for our target audience, for the Bharat user. So that's the direction that we're taking.
Yeah, interesting. Just taking on from that bit specifically in the current environment that we are, storing the kind of data that you are aiming to store also brings very high security questions. Right. So how are that being tackled around?
Right. So so that was one of the key things when we launched Kaagaz also, was that Kaagaz completely works offline as well. You don't need to actually sign in to use Kaagaz. You only need to sign in when you want to upload documents on cloud to back them up. Till that time, your documents stay on your phone. We don't have access to any of those things, and it's complete control with you. The moment your document goes to a cloud, this is where we use a secure cloud servers. We use AWS servers. We are also consciously keeping all the data in India to make sure that the data security part is taken care of from that perspective. And we are encrypting everything. So it's a 256-bit encryption that we use, which is basically a bank-grade encryption, that all your documents stored on our secured servers are completely encrypted. No one can just hack into our servers and get access to everything. First, of course, there are security measures for anyone to be able to get inside the server. If at all that happens, possibly sometime in future, if at all that happens, even if they get in, they'll not be able to figure out the documents, because that's all encrypted. It's all basically kept in different pieces, which only get created into a document through a required key. So that's how we are thinking about document security. Most important for us is it has to be completely consent based. Your documents get uploaded only if you want to upload them, not just because we start pulling documents on cloud. Or even if you offer some of the advanced things in future, it will be completely consent based. If you say that, then you get those services from us.
Interesting. Snehanchu, one big problem, right, when you start looking at Bharat, right, and India, is essentially a paying customer base, right? So while the engagement numbers are very high, right, and I think that's usually the case, right? So I think we're very quick adopters, right? But as soon as it comes to a point where it's about paying for that service, right, the numbers are abysmal, right? They're not as exciting, which has made people question that entire thing. I think one thing that COVID did was possibly change that, right? But that's true for urban India, right? Which got into that, there was this sense of, say, ease and convenience that stepped in, right? And people were willing to pay for it, right? Is that something that you see across Bharat as well? I mean, is that a struggle that you live with in terms of trying to figure out ways in terms of ensuring that the customer pays for it? Because like you highlighted, right? There's a very large audience which is in tier 2, tier 3 India, which is what you're going after, right? This is a new audience. This is still an audience which is not has that that comfort in paying, right? For them, internet is still brings free things, so on and so forth, right? What has been your experience, right, around that particular thing?
Monetization is an important question for us as well, and that's something that we are right now experimenting with. There are few high-level pointers or things that we are keeping in mind with respect to monetization for this audience. One is the whole notion that India or Bharat would not pay is a very blanket sweeping statement. Sure. It is about value that you offer to this user, like any other Indian user. If you offer value, that's where they start paying. Now, right, what will be the value that will make them pay could be different for an urban Indian versus a Bharat user. It could be different for what I will pay for and what our target audience would pay for. So we need to figure that balance out. It could be things like, so one of the analogy that we regularly use internally as well, or when we speak, we are learning from the sachet model or the chota recharge model that telcos and FMCGs have mastered already. And with all kinds of Bharat audience, I mean, their users are sitting in tier 4, tier 5 towns also, villages also, and are paying for those sachets. So whether it is a small shampoo sachet or a 10 rupee recharge, that is where the value starts making sense for this audience. Or that kind of pricing is where it makes sense for them. So we need to figure out what is it that for us, which will be something that people will be okay paying. So that is number one, which is where we are doing a lot of experiments right now to offer more. So for example, the first thing that we're trying out is offer more cloud storage to users, but a very sachet kind of a pricing. So something like a 1 GB storage for 1 year for 99 rupees. That's something that we're right now experimenting with, and we're getting users who are paying for it already. So that's one part that we're focusing on. The other part is, earlier paying online for things was a challenge. With UPI, that is solved for a large extent of users. They're now comfortable paying using UPI. All kinds of different apps. Every shopkeeper has his UPI. I mean, the QR code there. They understand how money flows through these things. So that is something that is also going to be a game changer for a lot of products like ours who are targeting this audience and looking at that kind of pricing. So UPI payments are never going to be 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees for most people. It's going to be the 10, 20, 50 rupees kind of transaction that you do through UPI, or at least this audience would do through UPI. So that is something that is definitely going to help this audience transact online, because now it is a lot easier for them. And then if you start offering them value, which is what the audience is, they are value conscious. They're not price conscious, they're value conscious. They get the value that they're looking for, then they're willing to pay for it. And then there are, of course, other things like, how do we bring in, for example, for Kagas, there are a lot of users that we have where father is using Kagas for business and the son is using Kagas for school. And they have same device. One device is being used for both these things. So if you can bring value to, how a family could use this, how a family could benefit from all of these tools in a package like that, it will start becoming interesting. So that's what we're, experimenting right now. And the other would be, this is a volume business. I mean, you are going to have lots of people using these products. And even if the conversion percentage is not very, very high, and the pricing is not very, very high, still with the volumes, there's a large business to be made targeting the Bharat audience.
I think, Snehanshu, it's always difficult, right? I mean, I understand where you are coming from. And I think possibly the challenge that you have, with, when you were kind of contemplating of a monetization model, right? Because, you always, it's about balancing it out, right? When you onboarded these users, right? And when they're using it, free of cost without any impediment, right? There's a certain behavior that gets set in, right? And then you want to introduce pricing, right? That just makes it a little difficult, right? And I think it's a very, I think it's a complicated position for you as a co-founder, right? And I understand where you're coming from, right? And I think there are no clear answers to it. I think you kind of have to experiment with it in bits and pieces, right? Nanju, there is a huge conversation that is happening around, enterprise SaaS at this point of time, right? With what you're doing, of course, businesses need and have a very clear identified demand and requirement when it comes to, say, scanning and distribution of documents and so forth, right? In a certain format way. Is that something which is on the cards, right? And also my earlier question to Chirag, right? And the complexity around, say, pricing it for an individual user, right? For a small business or for the household, right? It's always difficult to price it. But in an enterprise environment, enterprises are kind of prepared for it, right? They're willing to pay for a consistency in service, right? Is that something which is, which is part of the plan? Is that something that you're planning towards? Is there a strategy that you have around it?
Tell us right now. Sure. So right now, enterprise is not definitely a focus for us, but we are looking at businesses which are basically SMBs in India who are getting digitized and are looking for these tools. So enterprises, in terms of the larger enterprises, is not what we're definitely targeting right now. The focus is on SMBs, and there are business use cases, as you also said. Scanning is one, document storage, document sharing, document creation. All of that is something that is now going to be, as people start selling online. So think of a user who's got one of these apps which can help them open an online store, and now he's trying to sell online through their store, but they also have to then promote their store online, which means they need to create online, create a digital post, social media post, or a WhatsApp post that they'll share with people to say that here's my online store, go on and buy with it. So that's where this audience is also going to need a lot of these tools, especially the SMBs, which is a big focus for us. We have a lot of SMB users today as well, almost more than a third of our user base is focusing on using it for their business requirements, and we're going deeper in that to create more value from all of these tools put together for them as a business. So that's definitely what we are focusing on from a small business perspective. In terms of pricing also, again, you have to think of creating value for this user. So if they have to create a document or store this document on cloud or do any of those things, they have to either depend on someone who's got access to a laptop and can do these things for them, or think of buying a laptop for themselves, which is a big investment for them. In replacement of that, if I could say, you don't need a Microsoft Word or a Google Docs to create a letter. You can do it in Kagas, but you have to pay 100 rupees a month. And you don't need to buy a laptop to do all of that. You can do it on your smartphone that you already have. And you can pay 100 rupees for a month, get all of these services together for 100 rupees a month. For a businessman who needs all of this, so think of someone like a real estate broker. His business is happening on a smartphone, either through phone or WhatsApp. That's where the business primarily is happening. But their business needs a lot of documents, whether it is keeping track of property documents or clients documents or agreements or invoices. All of that is something that if we can offer them without them having to require to be buying a laptop or getting a separate internet connection at home or office to do all of that, there's a huge saving coming from them from that perspective, and we can offer all of that easily on their phone. So it has to, for us, and as you rightly pointed out, this is something that we are experimenting with. This is going to be something that there's no right answer right now. We have to figure out that answer for ourselves. But this is how we are thinking, that we have to show value to this user and then they'll pay. So enterprise definitely not there. SMBs for sure is a big focus.
Just jumping onto this one, there's one bit about how does the competitive landscape look like? Where are your peers standing at this moment?
Right. So most of the competition today is, so we are in different categories of products where there are independent people available. If you look at scanners, there's of course Cam Scanner, which is now banned, but then you have Adobe's got a scanner, Microsoft Lens is there. There is also there are a bunch of tools that are there for scanning. Again, for PDF, there's Adobe has its PDF reader, Google Drive has its own PDF reader. So in overall, in terms of looking at the way we are looking at a document super app, we are probably competing with a G Suite or an MS Office or an Adobe on phone, and that is where major other than that, of course, there are independent products that are available for each of these use cases. So how we see competition is all of these apps are available, have always been available, but people are still not using them. For example, Google Drive has always been there for people, but people don't use it because the user that we're talking about is very different. This user base, for example, to start using Adobe or start using MS Office or start using G Suite, you need an email ID. A lot of our users don't even have an email ID. They create an email ID just to access Play Store because that is required. And that is also a lot of times created for the first time and then they forget. And the next time they buy a new phone, they have to figure out a new email ID or try to remember that password. Or if it is someone in the family, maybe a son has got an email ID. So he'll pick, the whole household has the same email ID login on Play Store to access all the apps. Now, this user doesn't have an email ID. How do they sign up on Adobe or G Suite or MS Office to start using it on their phone? So there are a lot of these things which that's where our focus is to build for Bharat means to understand this behavior and to build something which all of these users, these other competitive products have not at least thought about so far. And we build our edge over all of that based on our understanding of this user base, our understanding of how to build for them.
You'll actually be surprised, right? This is not just the case with Bharat, right? I mean, I have a daughter, right? She's 9 years old, and she has to access a lot of stuff on her tab and on her computer, and and essentially the logins that are used are that of parents, right? And essentially, what you land up realizing is that your feed looks like a kid's feed, right? By the end of it, so it's not literally a Bharat challenge, but it's a it's a challenge in everybody's life, especially around the times. Sanchu, I have particularly a question around the go-to-market, right? And and the kind of environment that you're kind of dealing in, right? I mean, when you're creating and catering to millennials, of course, there is little sense of innovation, right? They're out there, they're experimenting. There's a certain fearlessness, right? And it's easy to acquire them, right? If there is a need and if you're there, they will possibly download you and use you, and there is a certain behavior around that, right? But when it comes to say dealing with say businesses, right? It usually is difficult, right? Because businesses, when you think of operating in a business environment, you start from fear factor, right? What if this goes wrong? And I think that's the first thing that you're trying to establish, right? How authentic this is. Am I going to lose my documents, right? So that's you essentially starting in that zone, right? Of fear, right? You are essentially trying to understand the longevity of the environment that you're operating in, right? In an environment like that, what happens to your GTM, right? Do you continue to acquire your customers in a digital format, or is there a partnership structure that you have around it? How do you go about acquiring your customers?
So one thing that you rightly pointed out there is, for any user, if there is a use case for something, they'll go on and download. And even with Bharat audience, they're experimental with things if they want to do something specific. Or the other thing that works very well is, especially in this audience, is people talk about these things and they share about these things. So a lot of people, when they find something, they'll tell others also that here's an app that I found. And it's also in some sense a social currency for them that, I found this app. So here I'm going to tell you how to also download this app. So that's there. But with respect to GTM, our focus for us has been that scanning is a use case that is the top of the funnel for us, which is a use case that most people understand intuitively. At least now, a lot of people do that. And when they look for a scanner, they go on and download Kagas and start using Kagas for scanning. Now, the other things that we are offering them is something which is then nudged within the product to get them to start using other features within the app which are more relevant for their business. So we still believe there's a large inherent demand for some of these utility tools that people are actually searching for on Play Store today. There are high amount of keyword searches around these products, whether it is PDF tools or whether it is a scanning app. So that is something that we continue to capture and continue to focus on capturing more and more part of that, which will take us to a significant growth there. The other thing that we are now working on to bring in more of a viral element to it, or sharing element to whole idea is, for example, we introduced cloud. So with cloud, as adoption goes up, we are also looking at introducing. So we just rolled out a referral program that you get free 250 MB storage for your documents. But if you share with more people, you can go up to 1 GB storage just by sharing and getting more users signed up. So that is another thing that we've just rolled out, and we're looking to see a growth coming from that, where people share it just to get more storage for themselves for free. That is one. Within cloud, we also look to get to next stage of a shared cloud or collaborative cloud, basically, where collaboration may not be straight away like what we have, that you can work on a Google Docs, two people can work on that document together. And instead, it could start off with that I'm a small businessman. I've got an accountant who works in a CA's office, and I have to share all my bills with them so that they can do the entry regularly. Now, I create a folder in Kagas where I'm keeping all my bills for this month, and this folder is shared with my accountant. So the accountant has quick access to these bills anytime. He doesn't have to come to my shop or office, collect the whole file and take it. And for me also, it's easy. I just immediately scan and upload at one place, and he gets access to it. So that there are a lot of collaborative elements that especially from a business perspective, that we are looking to bring in, which will again help us get to more users, because collaboration means that you need to get all those people also on Kagas platform. The third part is the document creation piece, which is what is a large focus for us as we go forward. There, what we are looking at things like is, so you have a bunch of free templates, and there'll be some paid templates as well. If you want to use the paid template, for example, which is definitely a better design and all of that, you can use it for free, but there'll be a watermark that goes with it, which says design using Kagas. Something like what CamScanner did with Scanned by CamScanner, something similar here, where then your word spreads, because a shopkeeper who's creating this creative every day and sharing it with so many people can also then spread your message around, and then people will get to know about it. So that's how, those are some of the thoughts around the GTM. Still focused on keeping it largely digital. We are not looking at any kind of, at least right now, we believe there's a lot of scale to be achieved without actually having to go on ground kind of thing.
Interesting.
Just one thing. Explain us how your whole funding journey has been. And
so we've raised funds. So our first fundraise was part of the Axelar Accelerator program, when we raised a small check from them in 2019. Then we raised another angel round from First Check Ventures. First Check, along with a few angels, invested in an angel round in July of last year. And then we raised our seed round, which was led by Pravega Ventures and Axelar, Better Capital, First Check, and a few angels also participated in that. Altogether, we've raised about 575K USD was our seed round, and about $50,000 before that.
Very interesting. Snanshu, I mean, I think, you've kind of answered this in bits and pieces already, right? This could sound cliche, right? But what are the next 2 years like? I would have loved to ask you a 5-year question, but I think 5 years is an unreal period, right? I think around the times that we live in. But what are the next 2 years like? I mean, I think it's a beautiful product that you're building, right? I think you've very effortlessly taken us through the entire the kind of play plan that you have, right? So it could sound cliched in a sense, right? But what's the next 2 years? If not 2 years, what's the next 15 months like?
So I'll put it this way: the next few months, maybe a year and more, would be largely focused around document creation for us, which is where we believe that there's a large opportunity coming as more and more people are coming online for their businesses, either selling stuff online or services online. Creator economy is booming. So around that, we are basically, there's a whole gold rush going on for all of these, and we are building shovels for them. So that's what the focus is. Document creation is the big focus for us, and cloud is something that we want to focus on in terms of adoption right now, that more people get to cloud. There's a large opportunity that we see there. So yeah, document creation and cloud is what I would say are the big things that we're focusing on for the foreseeable future. Of course, we'll continue to improve the existing product, add more things here and there with that. Also looking to scale our team, hiring right now as well, and looking to definitely be looking to hire more people as we build this whole.
And I think my sense is the monetization piece is going to be a little more crisp and clear, right?
Yeah, we'll continue to experiment on things, and we are also doing that right now. You also had one question in between about our GTM and is there a partnership angle to it? So that's also something that we are exploring as more people have shown interest in using our tech. So looking at partnering with people who are also targeting the same audience, and we offer our technology as some kind of a package together with their products, and see if we can grow with that as well. Also, there's a possibility, a significant possibility of monetizing from that angle as well.
Very interesting. I had that as a question. Right, around partnerships. I just kind of skipped that in interest of time, but I think good that you highlighted, right? Snanshu, one thing, you're clearly a product first company, right? And I think of all the conversations that we've had, right? I think it seems to be very, very deeply ingrained, right? I think the way you're kind of dissecting is absolutely beautiful, right? My last question in this conversation, right, is what is it that a founder needs to do right? Or how are you doing it? Between the three of you, right? in creating a right product culture, which is very, very important. I mean, you're a small team right now, but as you expand, of course, more ideas come in. A lot of, I mean, of course, the stakeholders sort of grow. There are a lot of, ideas and inputs that they come up with and they bring in, right? So how do you ensure that you're cultivating this mindset, right? Which is very important. I think that's going to really define the longevity of any organization going forward, right? What are your thoughts about that?
So Ashu, what we talk about is that, and it sounds cliche, but I'll tell you how we think about it. We're thinking about first principles, and it's all about first principles thinking for us. And why is that? Is as a team, the three of us, Gaurav, me, and Taman, we've never been product people really. I mean, I've never been a product manager in my life. So I've never worked at a large product company before this. Did a startup before, which is where a lot of learnings came for us ourselves. And before that, I had a career which is more corporate, whether it was consulting or working in large corporates. Similarly for the others also, Taman of course has been a tech guy all through. But we've not been as a team, not been product people per se. We've been business people. We've done a bunch of things. So for us, it's more about, we don't know anything about building products. We just go by first principles that what is our user is asking, let's build that. Let's try to understand what our users are asking, not just explicitly. Explicitly is easier to do. You look at the reviews and speak to the users and figure out what they want. But there are a lot of implicit, unsaid things that people also tell us, which is what we focus a lot on, which is where data comes in. We focus a lot on data in terms of looking at the user behavior within the app, trying to learn from that. We don't have any forms of learning from others. We go on and look at what everyone else is building for Bharat audience. What are they doing? There are their own learnings. What can we pick out of all kinds of apps that are targeting this audience? We go on and check out all of them, try to figure out why they would have done this, and pick up something from there and bring to Kagaz as well. So that's how we've been learning about building a product and building for this audience.
Right.
In terms of building that culture, and I would credit Gaurav specifically here. He's customer support. If you message us on WhatsApp, it's Gaurav who's answering you. And since we are only a 7-member team, we don't have a customer support separately. Gaurav runs growth and he runs also customer support, which means that everything is getting handled, at least today, handled at the founder level directly. For us, I mean, it's out of 7, 3 of us are the founders. So it's all getting handled at that. That is making sure that everyone else in the team also sees that Gaurav is answering customer support calls or WhatsApp messages, and if there is a issue that gets escalated, it comes to me, and I am talking to the users, whether it's 10 o'clock 10 in the night or early in the morning, because our product is also like a product which is something that people are using for work. So it is not something that can typically wait. They want a solution at that moment. So those are the things that we are doing. We talk a lot about our users in our internal team meetings also, telling everyone that this is the audience that we are building for, and ask them to also look around themselves to see who this audience is and try to relate to them while thinking of anything, whether it is growth or product or anything. So yeah, I mean, that's how our culture is getting built, I guess, and thinking about product within the company.
Snehanshu, it was truly a pleasure to be speaking with you, right? I mean, I have loved, I think, each and every bit of the conversation that we had, right? And thank you so much for such an honest conversation, right? I think founders are always under tremendous amount of pressure, right? And I think they're constantly against odds, right? And I think they want the narrative to be correct, right? But I think usually what happens is you land up into very superlative conversation, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? I think your job is to essentially to kind of steer all of that. I think that vision is important, that passion is very important, right? But I think this was a very unique conversation because it was very honest, very very, very right and very correct in its sense and way, right? So thank you so much, right? I think great companies can be built with right kind of motivation, right kind of focus, and without necessarily being overtly aggressive. And I think so. It's been a heartening conversation, Snehanshu. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Ashu. It was your questions were well thought of, and I also had a good conversation. Got an opportunity to speak about things that we normally don't. I mean, as you said, a lot of times the conversations end up being superficial because that's how the conversation was taking the direction. And here it was a lot more about trying to understand things, and I like to speak about. We just want to keep it real for ourselves. Everything else will take its own course and we'll go that direction. Thanks a lot, Vivek, as well for all your questions.
Between me and Vivek, we would look forward to having you with us soon. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Ashu. Thank you, Vivek.